Buddy, this is Tuesday. Ask me anything. We did get a lot of support last week after I read my mean comments online, and one of the people that made a mean comment said it's not fair that you mentioned my mean comment, but I didn't say what her name was. But then she said, "Well, it's not fair that you read my mean comment," and I think our customer experience team said, well, why would you make a mean comment if you didn't want somebody to read it? And she goes, that would be like a mean email then. But if you make the comment online, other people are reading it. So it just doesn't make sense to me. So, but I want to thank everybody because we had a lot of people saying, what are you so angry about? This is a hobby that's supposed to be fun, which obviously it is. And our intention is to continue to be fun and make it more fun and more enjoyable for everybody. So thank you for the support. For the last week and the last 18 years. So it's been amazing. The other question is that we had a lot of is, can we get a sneak peek of anything you're working on? So you can. Here it is. That's it. This is actually the artwork. It's probably not that clear. This is going to be the new tile scene that's going to be it's called Fantasy Tree. And this is going to be the next SIG series coming up in January. So it's this beautiful tree with, birds. It's like a chinoiserie scene. It's on linen. It's beautiful. It's made with 40 different blocks and borders and options, and we'll have more sneak peeks. But as far as 365 goes, in November and December, you'll get a lot of sneak peeks of what's coming. I don't want you to see it too early because then it's still not coming out for 10 weeks and people are going to say, well, it's not fair that you have it. We can't have it yet. So we'll be doing a lot of sneak peeks in the coming weeks. So that's definitely coming soon. So this is Ask Me Anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the 365 Club. It could be about anything regular embroidery or, where am I going next or something like that. My next trip is in High Point, North Carolina for the furniture market. If you've never been there, it's pretty exciting. If you happen to be in the furniture industry, that is like their Las Vegas without, the gambling and restaurants and shows. But everything else about
just
it
is
just the furniture. So that's my next show. I'm trying to hold back my excitement, but it's really only like a 60-minute drive, so it doesn't really feel like I'm going anywhere. The other question, when the All Access Club starts, there's going to be a lot of different downloads a month. So 365 starts in January. There's going to be multiple downloads. The question was, is there going to be a download all button? So if it's towards the end of the month and you just want to download everything, yes, there will be. There'll be a download all that'll download everything that had come out so far that month. All right. So what's our next question, Haley?
Let's talk about embroidering on paper. We have a lot of questions about that. What type of paper is best? How do you even start with that? I think it's just the best.
Yeah, that's a great question. With my artwork, almost everything I do is embroidered on paper. That was really the whole point, is like, what can I do with embroidery that's really rarely been done, or if it's been done, hasn't been done at the level that I do it. And it's really simple, in a way, and also really challenging. Now, the simple part is you're really not doing a lot different to your machine. You're hooping a piece of no-show mesh or a tearaway stabilizer. I use a couple pieces of tearaway, and then I use like a spray adhesive, and I stick the paper down. Any of the Anita collections, like greeting cards, will show you this technique. Then it's really about the design you choose. So any design that's done is like red work or running stitch, stippling, like a quilting design that's like a free motion style, works perfectly on paper. You basically need a really long stitch. The longer the stitch, the less holes it makes in the paper and the smoother it'll run. You have to turn off your trimmers. The trimmers on embroidery machines work, the needle goes down and like a knot is tied underneath, and that's what prevents the thread from coming out. Well, if you try to do a trimmer on paper, it doesn't have the fabric to grip. So the thread, every time that cuts the thread, it'll come out. So I manually trim the threads after. That way, the less times it trims, the less chance you have of the thread slipping out of the needle. So you turn your trimmers off on your machine, and then you really can't do anything with a satin stitch or a heavy fill. What'll happen is if it's a satin stitch, it'll chew right through the paper or box, and it will fall apart. So when I stitch on paper, all my designs are specifically digitized for paper. And at the end, if the next question is, am I going to come out with more of those on Anita's side? The answer is yes. I plan to do a whole nother series on stitching on paper because I think it's the most fun thing to do, and most people don't expect it to see embroidery that way. If that answers the question.
Yeah, that does answer the question.
I can go into more detail if you need it, but I think that
For another day.
for another day.
All right, so we've got some people on Facebook asking, what deal will you give those of us that want the all access for November and December? Is it going to be the $99 across the board for the digital imprint, or will there be some kind of a deal on those?
Okay, so this is the final 2 issues of All Access, which, November is in a few weeks, and then there's one following in December. Anybody that joined, are we talking about from people that have joined or are joining 365, or is this just in general?
I think just in general.
In general, we're going to treat the final 2 issues kind of just like we have with past All Access issues. Is once they're out, they'll find their way into the back issues collection of the website for purchase. And if somebody just signed up for 365, they will get that discount on any purchase. So
Great.
That'll be available.
Cool. So we are getting some really awesome questions on YouTube about, would you consider doing a tile scene for each individual state? Washington has mountains, trees, water, and so much to offer. Each state has so much to embroider.
So 50 tile scenes.
50 tile scenes for 50 states.
All right. So if I do one every quarter, that's
We'll be
only
set for a long time.
That's 7 and I don't know how many years is that? Like 14 years. I had the idea. So we've done a few things that were state related. We do have a collection called the 50 States. It's a large collection. When it came out a number of years ago, that was the most expensive and extensive collection I've ever done. And it was almost like a design collection for each state that had like a quilt block and all different, state items. And it had all the different features and famous parts of that state are in each collection. And the 50 States box set came with all of them. And then we've also done a separate collection of 50 States birds and flowers.
Mm-hmm.
But to do 50 separate state tile scenes, I know would be really difficult.
It would probably have to be on a way smaller scale than what we are
Right.
thinking about currently with our current tile scenes that are most of the time relatively vast in size.
Yeah.
Could be used as art pieces or whatever you prefer, but are on more of the 3x5 at least side feet wise. So it would probably have to be considerably smaller, but something we could definitely think about. And
Yeah,
consider.
we could definitely maybe think about like a regional collection. That would be the Southwest, the Northwest, the Southeast, and at that point. But if it's like, the idea is with landmarks and that kind of information, we do have that in the 50 states already. So maybe we could feature that collection on the website so you can get a look at it and maybe update some of the photos so we can see a little bit more clear. That was one of those collections that you always really had to see the quilt to truly see what it was all about. And so we could drop some new photos in and you could check that out.
Great. All right. Hi, Stephen. I'm relatively new to embroidery and would love to frame it as artwork.
Sure.
What is the best material and embroidery design types to use for this method?
You could frame anything. If you looked at like my Instagram or my website at Stephen Wilson Studio, you'll see that there's nothing I haven't framed as artwork. I mean, you have like I've taken pieces like that was created as a quilt, so I can create a fabric piece, and instead of binding it, I would stretch it around a frame, much like you would a canvas. I mean, a canvas that people paint on is fabric, just stretched really tight. So you could frame a quilt. You could actually take it to a framer and have them stretch it and frame an actual quilt as artwork. What I mostly do, can one of y'all grab me? I don't know, anything off the wall. Um, I'll show you one of these little guys. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, you can't see what's going on behind the scenes here. This is a shadow box. So how I frame pieces is you can order shadow boxes online. A company I use is one of them I use is called Wexel, Wexel. And so you would order like a shadow box in whatever size, and it comes with a background already. And it's basically screwed together. So you unscrew it and you wind up with like a platform, and then you can cut anything out and you frame it in that shadow box. And that's kind of how all of my artwork is created, from the 5x12 all the way up to 60x60. That's kind of how I do it. Is I take a shadow box, I mount the piece, uh, and flatten it and all that stuff. That technique and exactly how I do it is in Signature Series Volume 1, which was my first one that came out. I think it's like 400 pages, and it really has art pieces that you could download, and it shows you how to stitch on paper, how to frame pieces, and everything in between. It really is all the secrets to creating embroidered art. But shadow box is the way to go. You can mount patches in it. You can mount three-dimensional objects in it because it's got a nice depth, and that's pretty much how I frame everything.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful in person. So definitely recommend whatever Steve uses for his art pieces for sure. Next question. This comes from our Facebook. As a longtime fan, you did design sets of stick figures. Are you planning on doing any more of those?
That's a great question. I just dug those out the other day. When I started my business, first one with my mom, this is like 1994. It was with these sweatshirts we made, and my mom would go to. And this is before my mother even had any grandkids. I have a nephew that's 22. So this shows you how long ago this was. And we would do these. When I say we, it was she would do them, and I would like do all the work later. But she would go to these home demonstrations, like a Pampered Chef or Airbon or whatever, anything like that. Would show all these sweatshirts, and they would say like this mom is loved by, or this grandma is loved by, with like a headline, and underneath it would have like little stick figures, and it would say Tom and this, and you'd pick the names. And so I would like embroider all these sweatshirts, and my mom would then deliver them to the hostess, and they would distribute them to the people that came to this party. So I remember I released that as like one of the first Anita collections. So this is 20 years ago. It was called the Keepsake Collection, and it was like Grandpa's Crew, This Mom is Loved By. I gave you all the titles, all the stick figures, and I always thought it was fun because if you're making like shirts like that, you can't have like designs that would take too long to stitch. So these were all made to kind of make t-shirts or sweatshirts, and actually for a business. And we did that for a number of years, and I forget why we stopped, but I actually found one of the old newsletters from 1997, so it was pretty funny to see. And that machine I used to run them on actually just stitched its last stitch maybe 2 years ago. So that machine ran for like 26 years or something like that. Some crazy amount. Yeah.
All right, next question. Put your seatbelts on.
Well, okay.
Would you go back to doing your old style of designs? We do not like your current design style.
All right. I don't. Okay. So that's a question. I thought those emails are for Fridays, which would be would I go back to the old style, and because they liked it better than the new style?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what that means. If you gave me an exact example, because I'm using the same software, we're using the same thread, and it's actually the same artist, Ginny, that still draws most of the work. So if there's a specific example, I could say why. But I mean, if you looked at Anita from 2004, to me, it was always been about designing a variety. Like I always loved realistic designs and And we also would do whimsical designs. So I remember that first Christmas was like Christmas elegance, Christmas whimsy, winter wonderland, which was snowmen that were kind of cartoony. So it's always been a variety. We try to mix it up depending on current design trends and things like that. So you'll get typography, then you'll get a tile scene, and you could get the Last Supper, which is a monumental project, and then the next project could be simple zippered bags. So it's always been to me about a variety.
Yep. And I think that we have a vast variety. There's no shortage of
There's over
opportunities and options on our website.
There's about 1,800 collections.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. All right. Moving on back to a YouTube question. Would you consider making some designs specifically for clothes, such as for backs for shirt yokes?
Okay. I get you. I get it. Ironically, fashion has always been the toughest. I call anything that's designed for wearables like fashion. So if you went on our website now, you can click there is a category called fashion, and it's basically wearables. Because it's always been to me, it's like projects, quilts, regular embroidery, which is, I think table runners, towels, tea towels, stuff like that. And then you have wearables, which would be things you put on jeans, patches, shirt fronts. So if are we going to do more designs that are designed specifically for clothing? Without a doubt. I think this is where like the 365 Club would be great, because if you have something like a pocket topper or designs you would put on a collar, thinking of like a concept for designs for a collar, not that difficult to do, a half a dozen of them, but to do like 50 different ones, then it becomes a little bit more complicated. So I think you'll see more specific fashion and clothing applications coming soon, but there is quite a bit in there. We have Fashion Explosion. We have a lot of the clothing and things I actually design are patch based, which means they're stitched separately and then applied to the clothing, which makes it much easier to do, which I think we have a few tutorials on the blog on how to do that, but you'll see definitely more fashion coming.
Great. Next question. In your Americana quilt, I believe you did a tile scene of a Native American. Will we receive it as an embroidery design as an option to purchase?
So we're talking about the Americana tile scene came out, I know it was a few years ago. So we're saying, are we going to break? Because that was a really big collection. I remember it was based on artwork series I did, and a lot of the designs were the same. So we turned those into Americana. And I believe it was like a premium plus, and it had a tile scene, it had clothing designs, it had other designs. So I think the question is, are we going to break that up into smaller sets? And if that's the request, we can certainly do that. There's a lot of larger sets I had done over the years that we've never broken up into smaller versions of it or singles. And I think the first ones we would do would be those larger, like premium pluses that are almost like 10 collections built into one. So that's an easy request. We'll make sure that happens.
Great. Will you be doing any lifelike animals such as elephants coming up in the future?
Yes. I love doing realistic animals. We've done obviously butterflies, birds, and there's been realistic ones here and there. You'll see those, definitely coming in January in the 365 Club, and we have art planned for quite a few. So that's going to be part of those. People always ask when I have if we're selling a design that's a single, well, how come one design might be $5? How come one design might be $30? And that's basically the difference. So a large realistic animal, of course, is going to be a lot more expensive. And takes me days to do as opposed to a typography design. So those are going to be some of the more higher priced single designs will be realistic animals and designs like that. So there's quite a few planned.
Great. Where or have you ever done the half applique, half pumpkin option? Is that something that you would be interested in creating, or have we already done that?
That's where like half the design is stitched and half of it's appliqued.
Seems like it.
In
a pumpkin
That's a good question. I know we've done a few of those. I'm not sure if it was like a realistic pumpkin and an applique. I'd have to look, but I think we called them like Christmas silhouettes and Halloween silhouettes. I forget what they were called, but I think it was applique and stitched. It might have been two appliques, but we can definitely write it down. I know we've done quite a few different versions of like the half and half designs.
Yeah, we can definitely add that to the to-do list. Let's see. Will you be coming out with an Oktoberfest collection? It is October, so fall season.
So like Oktoberfest, like the German beer hall kind of thing.
I think so.
I don't think we are.
Next question.
Since October's, I think pretty much everything that's come out. This is again next October. I could put it on the list because that's where if you watch the last week or so, you kind of see how the design process goes. You would have to get that request in, 6 months in advance for us to get it through that system. Where now, like with the new club coming out, we'll be able to just drop designs and not have to figure out how it fit into like all these other clubs and things like that. So next October, but if something like that was going to come out, I rarely drop designs on the month where it's supposed to be represented. So all of our, say, Valentine's Day designs, but so Valentine's Day is February, they're going to come out in the beginning of January, or they're not going to come out, because what happens is you want to make something. So if I release a Valentine's Day design on February 14th, well, you don't have time to do anything. So I always tried, that's why all of our Christmas designs generally come out by October, because December, it's kind of too late to plan a project to make.
Ooh, I just got a really good one that I personally love, but I don't know if it would work with copywriting. So this is a good question. Would we be able to do Berenstain Bears next October?
Well, that's the same thing to do things like that, like the Berenstain Bears or Disney or Marvel. I wish it was as simple as just saying, I want to do it. It's actually very complicated. That being said, it's something we've talked about exploring, is to do more licensing and to kind of figure out how it works. Really, the only people that do is Brother. They do like the Disney designs. They've had that license for a while. Marvel, and basically that whole window. And that's something we definitely want to explore, is how can we give licensing designs to our customers that were created by us, instead of having to buy T-shirts that are already made. I'm sure it'll be a simple phone call, just asking for permission.
Yep.
I doubt it. I bet it's going to be really complicated.
Long process, but in theory, it would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
So we have a lot of people that are interested in beer and wine designs.
Okay.
So is that something that you would be interested in coming out?
Yeah, I mean, I like beer and wine too, and it's how do you do it where it doesn't look, like a wine glass? And I think we have some. It's like wine o'clock somewhere. That whole thing, and it's like, I know we've done like a collection called Tuscany. We've done Y Country, so it has that kind of European vibe with the the wood signs and the grapes. So we could definitely put that on the list, because to do like a beer collection would be great, but I don't know if I'd be able to do a giant collection. So this is where it's kind of fun to see, but we could definitely put those on the list.
Might be something fun to introduce for the 365.
Yeah,
and then get
definitely.
some feedback and go from there.
Right.
All right. People are really loving the idea of being able to give you feedback on the 365 options that we were dropping. Lots of ideas, such as small aircrafts like the 182 Piper Cub. And things like that. Let's see about what else we have. Would we ever bring on technical support to be a part of your live? So bring in maybe Martha, who does a lot of our technical support.
Sure. I mean, I don't see an issue as to why we don't schedule like a technical support live, but I don't have to like even be in that one. Not that I don't answer questions about tech support, but I mean, a lot of the questions about design specific things or like machine specific things. How do I get this to do that? And I don't know if that's somebody that would be, it would be more like a structured event because the tech support questions are so specific that everybody else will be like, you know, either they know it or they'll be yelling at their screen of how to fix something. That's where like the Facebook page and fan group page are so great because people add type questions in, and then it's such a great community that everybody answers and kind of helps people with it, which I think is great. But to do a tech live is kind of tough because unless it's like general questions, it gets really kind of
become very overwhelming and kind of go off on tangents. So that is why most of the time when you do call in with your technical questions, we do send you over to Martha.
Martha, yeah.
She is
And then there's like a punch list they follow. It's like start here and you go here and you go there. And, questions like stitching on paper or what kind of needles to use, those are more like tips and tricks. And I'm sure Martha could do something like that as well. But then it's like, oh, let's get down into like why my like Elagio machine from 2007 is not working. And then that's like a whole different specific class.
All right. Any thoughts about branching out into supplies, stabilizer, cork, leather, etc.? Would love to buy kits for some bigger projects.
Yes, we've talked about it and we'll continue to. We have plans to do, consumables, which would be like, threads and this and that. And we were working somewhat with somebody and then, COVID happened and it never obviously happened. So it's definitely something we're going to explore again. We use when I create work at Anita, like a very specific series of stabilizers and steps. And people have asked that question for years. We had never done it, but it's definitely something we're exploring right now.
Great. Let's take just a few questions about 365.
Sure.
And before we even address a couple of those questions, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that you have had 3 different videos at this point answering questions.
Yeah.
And we do have a frequently asked question blog, all dedicated to Anita 365 Club. So if your question is not being answered today on the live that is in regards to 365, please refer to those past posts and videos.
And I'm sure I'll be doing another one.
And he will do another one. But like I said, if your question is not answered there, then it is more likely in the frequently asked questions.
And then you can
contact
send us a question. Yeah, of course.
Experience at AnitaGoodesign.com. So we're just going to pick a couple at random and go from there. So I signed up for the 365. Is it true that I can now purchase October, November, and December's all access at a discount if I want? And I think we might have covered that a little bit earlier with the
yes, when they're released onto the site, they become a product, and then you could purchase any of those using your discount. In the future, we'll be coming out with products that are pre-orders, like the SIG Series 4, which that pre-order will probably come out next month, and same thing. Even though your club doesn't officially start until January, we didn't want people to have to wait for their other perks. So the other perks, like the discount, is available now.
Great.
Even though the December release isn't out yet because it's not December, when it comes out, you will be able to get that price.
Yeah, with your 30% off
Yes.
as a club member. Let's see. How often are you going to be releasing exclusive designs on the 365 Club?
I'm going to be created, so it'll either be exclusive designs or exclusive sets, because some of the ones I'm working on are kind of projects as well. So they might have like more than one element in them. And it's going to be a minimum of twice a month.
Great. All right. Is this a January to January club or is it month to month?
It is neither. It is whatever month you start, like to me, a January to January means, there's something that has to tie that into a calendar year in some way. And this is a 12-month membership. But if you signed up in January, then your last month would be December. So you'll get 12 months. So if you signed up in March, your last month would be the following February. So it doesn't start and end in a calendar year. It goes for the 12 consecutive months, including the month you signed up in. So how this works, if you sign up January, at any point in January, you get all of the January designs. Where all access in the past, if you signed up in January, you might not start till February or March, depending on when in the month you signed up. So this is definitely more immediate. And as soon as you sign up, your features are unlocked.
Great. Will there be a download all designs option each month with the 365 Club?
Yeah, we already said that.
Did we?
There's going to be, as things come out, you could download them. So every few days, you'll see a new collection available. And then, you'll also have a download all that will just download all the designs that have come out so far in that month. So if you want to wait till the end of the month and click download all, so you don't have to do them individually, you could do that, or you could download whichever ones you want to work on at the time.
Great. Will my previous designs be transferred over to the new site when that occurs in January?
Yes, it's basically right now your designs are in Customer Center or previous purchases, and then that's going to be the same. You're just going to get a new login because a new club is starting, and it's for basically privacy and making sure that it's what do you call it? I forget the term for it, but
Compliance?
yeah, it's compliance. We're not allowed to transfer passwords from one database to another. That's like on the rules. We don't want your data to get stolen. So when it switches to the new club, you'll get an email to re-log in. So you get a fresh password that you create, and it should smooth up the whole login process.
Great. And I think we're going to wrap up with this question. Will there be instructions and tutorials included with each design drop within 365?
The idea, as far as tutorials go, is basically going to be remain unchanged unless it's just a design like we have those in all access right now. If it might be a flower bouquet that's going to be stitched on a towel, well, at that point you would get the design, and what we're now going to be doing is including there's additional tutorials that you might find useful for that design if there's no specific project in mind. So if it's a zippered bag, yes, you'll get instructions. If it's a quilt, yes, you'll get instructions. If it's just an embroidery design, you'll get the step-by-step colors and whatever specific things you need to do to create it, applique, anything like that. And then you'll get project ideas and links through that download if you want like instructions on how to create a tea towel or instructions on how to put this on a sweatshirt. So we're actually including more tutorials than we did before.
Great. All right. Well, I think that wraps up our live for today.
Exciting. Some good questions today.
Some great ones.
And we'll see if we're going to do Fridays again. Maybe not. It depends on how much that kind of mail we get this week.
We're hoping that dials back after we had our first Hate Comment
Right,
Live.
right. But we couldn't see him. He's still here, and believe me, I have to see him plenty. So we'll make sure that he's in the next one, and we'll have Drea here and Brian and a lot of the people you've met that have taught you, and that way you don't get sick of me, and they have a lot to say too, and they're wondering why they're not on camera, especially Taylor. So we'll bring him next time that we do a live, and that'll be soon. But thanks all for tuning in. Again, type your questions in. We always start with the questions that we got that we received during the week, and the Haley starts those at the top of the list. And so if we don't go live until next Tuesday again, we'll make sure we start with those questions.
Absolutely.
And thank you all.
We'll have, you guys can send more questions into customer experience at Anita-Goodesign as well. And everyone have a great week.
Perfect.
Thanks for
Thank you
tuning
all.
in.
Do my-